Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are diving into how to handle multiple environments using Expo Application Services. I'll guide you through one method to efficiently manage development, preview, and production environments using a combination of EAS services like build, submit, update, and environment variables. So a quick disclaimer, this is just one approach and depending on your workflow, you might find other methods better suited. However, this is a solid starting point, especially if you're just getting into managing multiple environments. Let's jump in and set things up. Okay, before we begin, here are a couple of things that you need. First of all, you need to be familiar with EAS. So if you need a refresher, check out the EAS tutorial playlist that I'm going to leave down here in the description. Then you also need an Expo account. You can't use EAS without one, so make sure that's ready. Now to make this easier, I've created a starter template that we are going to use to get up and running quickly. So this template comes with 3 environments already set up, which are development, preview, and production. And here's how it works. So let's scroll down. I have this, simple README. Of course, if you think that we can improve this, please go ahead and create a pull request. I would be happy and merge your changes. So first of all, let's go ahead and use this template to start a new Expo project. So I'm going to go to my terminal and paste this command. I'm going to be using bun to create this project. So I'm going to be using this template called with ends. Let's go ahead and hit enter. So this is going to ask me which name I want to use for my application. So I'm going to call this app. Okay, so my project is ready. I can cd into app and then open this in VS Code. Okay, so now we have a project with the entire configuration and we're gonna go through each step, but I just wanna talk a little bit about the development cycle that I think you should follow when you're using this template. So we are going to have development, preview, and production. For development, we're going to be using development client, which allows you to install the application in a real device for testing deep linking or authentication with providers like Google or Apple. Using a development client, it's very useful. But if you want, you can also install the application on a simulator. Also, having a development client allows you to quickly test updates and share updates with your teammates that also have the development client application installed. So you can send them the link of a specific update and they can install it quickly and see your changes and maybe approve your pull request and things like that. But ideally, preview environment, it's for QA and testing. So if your team is big and you have a QA test group, or you just want to share with your clients a preview of the build, you should use this environment. So a preview build is going to be a standalone application, meaning it doesn't require the server to be running, right, to work. It's going to be a fully functional application. So once we have the green light from our QA team, we'll trigger a production build, which is going to be optimized for App Store distribution. And this build, of course, as well as the preview, are going to support over-the-air updates for seamless fixes and feature rollouts. Now, it's also worth noting that each environment is going to have its own EAS environment variables, which can include things like API-based URLs, client IDs, or any other environment-specific configuration. So the next thing that we need to do once we have our project here is just create a new project in expo.dev. So go to expo.dev and on the projects tab, just press the create new project on the right, give it a name, and for example, test, and this is going to generate as well a slug. So just go ahead and press create and you'll have a new project. In this case, I already have many projects, as you can see, but I'm going to select the with ends. It's also worth noting that if you already have a project, you can use it as well. Now, we're going to need a couple things from this project. First of all, the owner, this log, which should be unique, and also the ID. So let's go ahead and copy the ID. And the next thing that I want to do is go to my project and inside the app.config.ts, I'm going to start replacing these values that I have in here. So I'm going to paste my project ID, my project slug, and my project owner. So as you can see, you can grab these values from here, and that's it. That's all the configuration that we need to connect with EAS. Now, your application is going to need a name. So in this place is where you're going to define the name and the production data of your application. So in this name, I'm going to say app prod, meaning that this is the name in production. And then you can change the bundle identifier. So in this case, I'm going to say com.beto.app.prod. Remember, all these are going to be production values. I'm going to use the same value for the package name. This is for Android. And then we have a couple of paths for the icons. Now, the template already comes with some placeholder icons, but of course, feel free to change them. They are inside the assets images, icons. And if you notice, the icons are ending with dev, preview, and production, meaning we're going to have a different icon for each variant of the application. Now, once we have the production values, this template actually uses these production values to generate the development and preview values. So if I scroll all the way down, here I have this getDynamicConfig function that is basically mapping each value depending on the environment. So as you can see here, we have development, preview, and production. And actually these values for each specific environment are the same ones for production. But for example, for preview, I'm just appending the preview word to the app name, to the bundle identifier, to the package name. This is going to effectively create kind of like a new application with a different icon. As you can see here, I'm using the preview icon for iOS and Android. And then for the scheme, we're just concatenating the prev word. That's all. And you can customize this as you want. So for example, if you prefer to have this as QA, just go ahead and overwrite. But you don't need to change anything. Just keep in mind as well, if you are working with redirections or deep linking, and if you are testing on a preview, you have to use this scheme, for example, right? And then we have the same for development. So we are appending, in this case, dev to everything, to the icons, to the package name, to the bundle identifier. Of course, you can extend this as you need, guys. So this is the configuration of the application. And if you want to have any other variable depending on the environment, just go ahead and add it to the configuration and then put it in here. But basically what I'm doing here is just calling getDynamicAppConfig, which is the function that we just saw in here. And then I am passing the environment as parameter. The environment comes from the app_environment. So this could be development, preview, and production. Now this comes actually from a file that we haven't created yet. So let's go ahead and start defining the variables or the environment variables that this application is going to use. So to do that, let's go to EAS, and then in my project, I'm going to scroll down all the way to configuration, and then I'm going to select environment variables. Now, as you notice here, I have some values, and you need to do the same. So in order for this template to work correctly, we need to define the environment that the application is going to use. So in this case, I went ahead and just click on add new variable, and then this is going to be app_env, and you need to add the value to be development, and then create this variable again for preview and create this variable again for production. So the value, it's changing depending on the environment. So as you can see here, we have the same name for the environment variable, but it's going to have the value of development, preview, and production. And this is plain text, by the way, meaning that all the people inside your organization of Expo organization can pull these environment variables and get started quickly with the project. So in this case, let's say that I'm working within this organization. So from here, once I have linked my project in the app config, I can go back to the code and open my terminal and use EAS to pull these variables. Actually, I also have this env.local.example, which is showing you these two variables, right? Ideally, this is just an example. Ideally, you should pull this from EAS by running this command that I have here. So for development, we're going to say EAS and pull. And you can specify the environment that you want to use. So you can pass development or just hit enter. And EAS is going to ask you which profile do you want to download. So of course, ideally, it would always be development, right? So let's hit development. And this is going to generate, as you can see here on the left, a .env.local file with my environment variables that actually are coming from Expo. So I set these values. And in this case, because I pull development, I know that the app environment is going to be development. But if you want to quickly change, for example, let's run this command again. And let's say that you want to run the application using preview environment variables. You can just select preview. Now, this is going to detect that we already have this file. So let's go ahead and replace it. And this is going to replace it with the values in preview. Now, you notice that you might want to have an API-based URL for preview, for development and for production, right? So this is going to replace it. Now, we might actually add in the future support for multiple environment variables, but as of now, we don't have that capability yet. So I have to replace, and here we have development again. Cool. So let's go back. Just want to mention that you can extend this for each value that you need on each specific environment. Just go ahead and create a new value. Now keep in mind that all the values that you want to have access in the application have to be prefixed with Expo Public, right? So for example, Expo Public API URL. These are values that are going to be included in the bundle of the application, but you might not want to put them in GitHub, right? So it's a good idea to create an environment variable and then load it based on the environment. Okay, cool. So far I have my environment, I have my configuration, and my project linked to my EAS project, which means I can start developing. So we have the setup ready, and now we can just trigger a new build. So I'm going to copy this command, which is basically just using EAS build to kick off a new build for iOS. Now, before I do that, actually, in my specific case, I want to increase the version to be 0.1 for my app. And let's create a development build. So I'm going to hit enter. And by the way, let me show you as well the EAS file. So on the left, we already have this EAS file, which has 3 build profiles. And of course, you can extend this. For example, in this case, development, I'm using a development client, like I said before, that is going to allow me to install the application on my real device, on my physical device. And that's why actually it's asking me right now for my Apple credentials to install this on my real device. So I'm just going to sign in into my Apple account and then select my company, use this certificate and select my devices. Okay, and the build is in progress, as you can see here. Now, if you notice, my bundle identifier in this case is going to be .prod.dev because I use this value for my production. Of course, in this case, you shouldn't include prod, I guess, in your case. But anyways, we are concatenating .dev because this is a development build. Okay, so we just triggered this one, which is using a development client and also has the distribution as internal. This environment that we are setting in here is going to allows us to access values from the environment variables that we set on the EAS dashboard, including when we send updates to our application. And then I was also going to mention that you can create a development simulator build if you want to, which can extend development and just say iOS. And you can specify iOS simulator equal to true. And this is going to generate a build for a simulator, but is not going to ask you for your Apple credentials because this is just a simulator build that you can then install on your computer. But in this case, this is optional. If you want to extend this template, of course, just go ahead and do that. So far, I'm going to be installing this development client on my real device. And then also, guys, I want to go ahead and trigger a new build for preview and production. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to open my terminal and run again EAS build iOS. And then let's set the profile preview. I'm going to enter my credentials. Okay, so I'm going to say yes and enter all my credentials. This is going to start the build, and I'm going to do the same for production. So for production, I can simply say EAS build platform iOS. And if you don't specify the profile, it's going to use production. So let's go ahead and hit enter. All right, now I need to log in. This is going to be, and let's select my credentials. Okay, and this is building the application. Now, some things to notice, guys. So in this case, we're using my production bundle identifier for this build. And if I go to the preview one, you can see that we're concatenating preview, and then we have the dev one, which means we can have the 3 of them working together in the same device. Okay, so while these builds are being processed, I also want to mention that we're also setting the channel for Expo updates. So as you notice, each profile has development for the environment as well as the channel for updates. So this is preview and this is production. If I go to my Expo project and then select my build, we should see now the 3 of them that I just created. And notice, guys, that we have the profile, production, preview, and development for each one of them, and also the channel. The channel is different. The channel is going to be for updates, and then the runtime version, which is now in this case 1.0.1, because I increased the version. I wanted to start fresh. Another thing to notice, just to make it clear, is that the preview and production and development builds that I'm triggering here are going to be using the environment variables accordingly to the environment that each build has. So in this case, this variable is going to be used for development, and this one for preview, and this one for production with this specific. Alrighty, guys, and after a quick moment, my 3 builds are ready, and I can just go ahead and install them on my real device that I have here on screen, as you can see. Just want to mention that you can also track the progress on the EAS dashboard. So as you can see, if I come here and reload the page, these builds are ready, and we can see the time that it took for each build. So let's go back. So for the production one, I want to send this to Apple, and to send this to Apple, I can use EAS submit. So I'm going to say EAS submit and then platform iOS. And that's actually all we need to do, basically. This is going to ask me which build do you want to submit. So I'm going to select build from EAS, and I'm going to select the latest one, as you can see here, which I can see the version, I can see the profile, production, everything looks good. I created this build 9 minutes ago. Looks great. So let's go ahead and select that one and enter my credentials. Cool. So this is going to submit my application to Apple, and let's go ahead and start installing. Of course, I need to say yes in here. Okay, and this is submitting. So now I'm going to install my development client. I'm going to open my camera here and just go ahead and install. Now, as you can see, it says App Prod Development. So App Prod is the app, my app name. So that's why. But yeah, as you can see, it is over there. So let me just go ahead and move it. Cool. So that's development. We can see it on the icon. We can see it on the name. This is the preview one. So I can install it directly. As you can see, it says preview. So we're good. And let's see if that is going to bring it here. It seems that it will not. So I'm just going to grab it from here and put it in here. And now, of course, the production build cannot be installed directly on my device. It has to be distributed through the App Store Connect or Test Flight. So that's why I'm submitting it to Apple so that I can install it. Now, while my submission is completed, I'm going to select my development here. And I'm going to start the server by saying npx expo start. So if I run this command, you can see that we can see some logs, by the way. And these logs are coming from the app config. So if you remember, we have this log in here that is just putting in the console the app environment that we're using. So in this case, we're using development, which means all the environment variables that my application is going to use are going to have development values. So from here, let's see the QR code and open my camera, and I'm going to start scan this QR code. This is actually going to open the preview app. So to prevent that, I'm going to quickly remove this for now. So I'm just going to close that and then scan again. This is going to take me to the development build, and I'm going to allow and just reload. So this is going to use the development client, as you can see here, and we can see that we have the development in the name. Cool. Now, because we're using the development client, we have the development.api, which is good. And also we have information about my app ID. So the app ID ends on .dev, and also the app name has development, and everything else looks nice. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to start the preview, and let's see how my submission is doing. Okay, and it's already submitted, which means I can just go to this link, or I can just go to my App Store Connect, and here's my app. So I'm going to reload, and you can see that we have this new version. Of course, it's missing compliance, so I have to just reply here, in this case, a quick no, and that's it. So this is my production build. Now I already have a internal testing group, which includes my device. So I can go back here and just open Test Lite, and I should be able to see this new version. Okay, and I can see it here. The version is correct, and the app name is App Prod. So in this case, nothing is being added to the configuration. Everything is, the production values. And if I open the app, you can see that the production URL is the Pokemon API version 2. You can verify as well the app ID. And we also actually have information about updates. So let me just bring the production one in here. So let's bring the production in here. And this is how it looks. Of course, the production and preview are going to be standalone applications, which means they don't need to have the local server running. But for the development client one, we can actually go ahead and develop using this application, right? So let's go ahead and test something quickly just to see that this is working fine. I'm going to go to the index file here in the tabs. And in here, I'm just going to copy, a text, maybe this one, and put it outside the scroll view. And I'm going to say, hey, this is my new feature, and hit save. Maybe I can add a quick style in here, just saying text align to the center, and hit save, and maybe a little bit of margin top of 30, and that's it. Okay, so this is a quick feature, and I'm ready to ship it, right? So we can actually create an update because this is just JavaScript changes. So let's go ahead and send an update. So to do that, I'm going to open a new terminal, and I'm going to close this terminal actually and just clean this one. And I'm going to say EAS update, because let's say that I want to test this on the preview, right? But the preview right now doesn't have my changes, as you can see here. So of course, this is just JavaScript changes, so I can quickly ship it instead of building, because building is going to take like around 10 minutes, maybe less if you have, a good resource. But yeah, we don't want to wait. So let's go ahead and say update platform iOS, and I can simply specify the environment that I want to update. So it's going to be preview. It's important that you specify the environment because these are the variables, the environment variables that we're going to be using in the preview application. So it's important that you specify the environment to be preview in this case. And then we set the channel to be preview as well. So let's go ahead and hit enter. It's asking me for a message. So I'm going to say my new feature and hit enter. Now it's also worth noting, guys, actually I have here oh cool, and we're getting the logs that is letting me know that we're using preview, which is good. Okay guys, and my deployment is ready, or my update is ready. And I wanted to show you how you can actually open this update using the development client. So as you can see here, I am in the development client. And if I go to extensions, because I sign it in, I'm able to see the updates. So in this case, I can see the branch preview, and I can just open this update in my device. And you can see that I can see the latest changes. Now I'm inside the development, as you can see there. So I actually have a note here that is letting you know that Expo Go and development builds are not specific, do not have a specific update channel, which means you can run any update on the Expo Go or development client as long as the update is compatible with the runtime, which in this case, we already know that it works. Now this is development, but if I go to the standalone application preview, you can see that I have here my new update, okay? And I actually have a button that is letting me know information about the updates and if we have something available. So this is how it looks. This is my new feature. And then if I go to the production one, you can see that we don't see anything. So let's go ahead and send this to the production environment. So I'm gonna just run this again. Update. In this case, I want to change this to be production as well as the environment, and hit enter. So we are going to be asked about some message as well. So I'm gonna say new prod feature and hit enter. Okay, and after a couple seconds, the update is ready. I can actually test this on my development client, or I'm here inside the production one, and I can just press this button. Actually, this is not going to search for updates. I just need to close the app and then open the app again. And now we're going to check for updates, and let's see. Okay, yeah, so the update was applied actually. As you can see, we have now the new feature available, and the environments remain the same. So the API URL still production. And from here, I can just, use this link to connect to my local server in my development build and just continue development using my, development set up. Now, when you create a new build, you don't need to worry about increasing the build number. This is going to handle that for you. And if you prefer, you can actually set this flag as well in the preview in case you need. And this is how it would look. But yeah, this is basically how you can handle 3 different environments, guys, with different values. And if you want to change your environment variables locally, you can simply come here and pull from EAS. So I'm gonna say EAS environment pull, and then you can select preview. This is going to, update your environment file. And then from here, we can say npx expo start. And as you notice in the logs, we are using now the preview environment. If you pre-build this application right now, it's actually going to use the preview profile. Now, before we finish this video, guys, I want to show you how we can actually handle the deep linking based on our environment. And by the way, I think this is good because you can have like a redirect automatically to the preview build or the production, which means you can have all of your environments. So for example, if I use my app scheme in here, I'm going to paste this in here and then add my / with colon and then go. This is going to ask me to open the production one, right? So I can just directly go to the production one, and we can do the same for the preview. You can see that we are just concatenating -priv. So I can do that in here and go. And I need to, of course, say colon / and go. And as you can see, this is asking me, okay, do you want to open the preview? Yes. And if I just go to the preview, this is working just fine, right? So we can redirect directly to the app that we want. So that's another huge advantage of changing the scheme for each environment. And that brings us till the end of this video, guys. So I hope you like this approach. I'm pretty sure that there's better ways to handle some things. And from here, of course, you need to, change your icons, maybe extend the configuration, or maybe remove preview and just have development and production. That works as well, depending on your needs. But I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think and feel free to contribute. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.